found the door on a night that felt like a mistake. The house had been empty for years, peeling paint, a radiator's dead tick, the stale breath of dust and paper. I went back because I told myself I could be brave, sort the boxes and leave. I wasn't prepared for the noise that drew me down the corridor, a soft scraping, like fingers over wood. At first I blamed the wind. The corridor seemed longer. My lamp flattened the wallpaper into a tired stripe. My steps made no sound. Each pace took me toward the servant's door beneath the stairs. The handle was cool, the wood smelling faintly of iron when I touched it. There was a low pressure in the air, a hum that settled against my teeth. Sensible thoughts crowded my head. Turn back, call someone. But something steadied my hand. I eased the door open with a breath that tasted metallic. Light spilled across the threshold and refused the deeper truth. Behind the door stretched a dark that did not belong to the house, an angle like a photograph folded wrong. A draft rose, carrying the smell of sulfur and damp earth, something sweet and rotten. I crouched because it felt respectful. The floor at my knees was colder, and the hair along my arms prickled. From that blackness, heat pushed out in measured waves, as if something had been pressing close to the wood and was now drawing back. A sound came, too faint to be a word, but too deliberate to be wind. For a moment, I thought I would close the door and pretend I had never seen it. Then a hand slipped through the crack. My heart thudded in my ears, loud enough to bruise. Old memories of being small and hidden, jagged like glass behind my ribs. I felt the grain of the threshold under my palms, the lamp's heat a useless island. The hum swelled and shaped itself into almost words, coaxing, patient, and my fingers twitched as if they might answer. It was wrong. Long fingers, too many creases, nails curved like hooks. The skin had the color of old paper and the tremor of something that had slept for a long time. The smell rose with it, intimate and wrong, like breath on my face. I froze. My lamp buzzed. The house, for the first time since I entered, seemed to be listening. When the hand withdrew, I thought, stupidly, that the danger had a polite timetable. It did not. The house exhaled, and the pressure around my skull sharpened into a needle of attention. My lamp sputtered as if the bulb had been startled. Its halo thinned until the darkness at the threshold was no longer a hole in the world, but a mouth. Then more movement. A dozen soft, scraping sounds like pages being turned very slowly. Fingers slipped again, this time not alone. An elbow, the curve of a wrist, the pale knuckles of several hands working the seam. They pressed from within, testing the latch, mapping the frame, like fishermen feeling where the net will tear. Each touch left the door smelling of something else, copper and earth and the stale sweetness of old coffins. My throat constricted around air that tasted like pennies. Voices threaded through the hum, low and practiced, not speaking so much as remembering. At first, I thought they were old radio static. Then a cadence coalesced, a cadence that sounded like my mother's voice calling me at dusk, only slower, stretched thin over something ancient. Another voice, a child's, recited half of a nursery rhyme I had not heard since I was 7. I could not tell whether they were echoes of the house, recordings running blind, or deliberate tricks aimed at the particular cracks in me. I pressed my forehead against the cool wood, like I might feel warmth from the other side. Up close, the hands were wrong in ways I couldn't catalog. The joints too many, the nails flecked as if with ink, the skin creased in patterns that remembered maps. The strangest thing was that a couple of those hands looked like my own, not merely similar, identical bends at the knuckles, the same callus along the thumb. For a breathless second, I thought I was seeing a future version of myself, or a past one, or the house teaching me how I had always been meant to look. Panic arrived with the slow certainty of a clock striking 13. I backed away, and the floorboard under my heel groaned with permission. The lamp died entirely. The corridor folded into velvet. In the absence of sight, sound grew obscene. Wet breathing, the drag of skin on wood, the distant thud of something knocking from the inside, as if the door were knocking back. I fumbled for my phone. Its screen offered a thin blue shape that felt sacrilegious in that black. It revealed nothing but a smear of shadow where the threshold should be, like a photo burned before it developed. Then, impossibly, the door moved inward of its own accord. It opened a fraction more than the hands could persuade, revealing not the expected black, but a depth of amber light, as if molten metal flowed somewhere out of frame. Heat hit my face, old heat, the kind that smells of iron, and with it a clarity crueler than fog, the feeling that whatever sat beyond the wood did not want the room. It wanted me. A voice, patient as a calendar and intimate as breath on my ear, said my name. When my name left the dark, it fit into my mouth like a key I had no memory of making. The light behind the crack pulsed slower now, as if breathing. For a second, I could have sworn I felt fingers, my fingers, pressing against the inside of my skull, arranging thoughts into sentences I did not remember thinking. The hands at the seam tightened, and with every squeeze a picture flared behind my eyes. A child under a table, a lover's laugh, the exact cadence of my father's curse. They were not showing me scenes, they were taking them. I grabbed the frame with both hands because that felt like a promise. The wood was warm and alive, veins running through it like old scars. The heat carried voices not in words but in texture. Velvet grief, dry laughter, the slick hiss of secret names being crossed off a list. Something else moved past the threshold, and the smell changed. Sulfur braided with perfume, and the faint, impossible sweetness of oranges peeled in a different century. The hands didn't pull, they invited. One slid around my wrist, and I felt the strange comfort of being seen. Under that comfort was the precise animal intelligence of hunger, selective, patient, the kind that knows how to wait until you hand it what it wants. I thought of running. My feet felt cemented by the weight of 1,000 small decisions I had made and would make. I pushed. For a moment, the door resisted like a living hinge. The hands on the other side matched my force, and I realized with a vertigo that was almost tender. They learned from me. Every jerk, every spasm I made showed them how to move in my skin. My fingers learned to fold like theirs. My breath fell into their rhythm. The boundary thinned until one of those hands, the one with the thumb nicked in the place I had nicked mine years ago, slipped entirely through and curled around the inside of my wrist as if reclaiming a lost thing. I tried to scream and heard instead my own voice from the other side, rearranged into a lullaby I had hummed once in the dark. It answered me before I could ask for help. Then the world narrowed to a single molten point where the wood met my palm. Light flared so bright, it burned, and in that white I saw a corridor lined with doors, each plaque on the frame a name I half remembered and half feared. Behind each was a shape that wore my face differently, older, younger, smiling with wrong teeth. They turned their heads in unison and looked straight at me. There was no wrestling match, no epic last lunge. There was a soft, inevitable slide, as if I were a coin being tipped into a well. My knees found nothing to stop them on, and the air filled with voices suturing themselves into the hollow where I had been. One final sensation. A hand from inside the door pressed to my palm, and then, like a match struck, everything went mercifully, irrevocably, quiet. It wanted me. It already had me.
Subscribe to Horror Story Bar.